So a little bit about our speaker. Andrea Mills Stephenson is a member of the class of 2002. After Davidson, she went on to receive a Master's of Social from Washington University in St. Louis, and she's been a social worker for over 12 years now. Her experience includes being a play therapist, directing a mentor program for kids who've been abused and neglected, and helping children start businesses. While in graduate school, Andrea created a financial literacy curriculum that was taught by her and Master of Business students at the local public and private schools in the area. This was her first independent contract, and it helped cover her living expenses while she was a student. The official Simply Outrageous Youth brand was created in 2006, and it's designed to utilize innovative and exciting methods of teaching business, financial, and life skills to 4th through 8th grade students. Currently, she shares fun learning activities online with parents and students and teachers. These are activities Andrea has done with her son, now 5, since he was a baby. Exposing her son to new fun experiences have become a joy for her, and she started blogging to share these experiences with others. She is the author of 3 books: Teach Your Toddler to Read Through Play, Fun and Easy Ways to Teach Your Toddler to Write, and Teach Your Child About Money Through Play, which she co-wrote with her brother Lindsay Mills from the Davidson class of 1992, who I think is with us tonight. The whole world has become a learning playground for Andrea and her son, and they found that new knowledge can be gained anywhere. Her son has expanded her definition of what fun learning entails and keeps her excited about what's next. Right now, I'll pass it over to Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. All right, can you all see the words "the shock"?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I am Andrea, and I'm going to get into a little bit about myself. I want to thank Yolanda for that wonderful introduction, so thank you. And this presentation is going to be about 30 minutes long, and I'm going to give you a lot of information, so I would encourage you to take notes, maybe with your phone or with pen and paper. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And also, just through this presentation, I'm going to be showing you a lot of videos, so it'll kind of break up the presentation, and also it'll give you some visual stimulation as far as what I'm trying to convey to you in this presentation. So you see the first slide here says the shock. So I'm going to start with this, and truly when my husband and I, when we recorded this video, we were shocked. And so what happened is we found out that my son could spell through phonics at 21 months. And I'm gonna play this video for you so you can see. And let me just lower the volume a little bit. So you can see here that this was a shock. He was 21 months and it was Christmas, and he just gotten these magnetic letters. So I just wanted to test them just to see. I knew that he knew his phonics at this time, but I wanted to give him 3-letter words just to see if he could spell them. So I gave him pig, big, dig, and my husband and I, we were surprised that he was able to spell words. And we probably did about 10 words until he got tired. And so this is what I'm going to be explaining to you tonight, how this was done through play. And so who am I? I graduated from Davidson College in '02. I majored in sociology. And then after that, I got my master's in social work from Washington University in St. Louis. I am a licensed clinical social worker. And like Yolanda said, I am the founder of Simply Outrageous Youth. And what we do is I blog about various activities that I do with my son. I also vlog, so I have a YouTube channel with my son where we share fun activities, and we'll talk about that later in the presentation. And it's also an online educational resource. So we have a lot of free courses there, a lot of activities, and we also have some paid activities as well, or paid resources as well. And I am the author of 3 books, and Yolanda talked about those. So this one is Teach Your Toddler to Read Through Play. And all these are available on Amazon, and all of them have at least over 110 activities, playful activities to teach your children how to read, write, and also about money. And this one is Funny, Easy Ways to Teach Your Toddler to Write. And this one is Teach Your Child About Money. So all these are available on Amazon here. So why teach reading early? And I will say that it was not my intention to do that. So I didn't have my child and say, oh, he's going to learn how to read. So it was a surprise, actually. So my intentions, and you can see us here at the hospital. I think it was he was maybe 2 days old there. And so my intentions were just to bond with him, you know, working as a full-time mom. I kind of had mom guilt, and I just wanted to bond with my son. So I wanted to concentrate on quality time with him instead of quantity. So when I would get off of work, I would be on the floor with him, just interacting with him. And I'll talk about more how I did that. And my main reason was I wanted him to communicate with being a play therapist and working with children who had behavioral issues, who were autistic, who had ADHD, ADD. A lot of them were seemed to be frustrated because they didn't have the language to tell the parent or tell their teacher their wants and their needs. And I also heard from educational professionals and also family members that boys talk late. So I didn't want my son to go through that. So I actually just wanted to expose him to words so he can communicate with me. And I also just wanted to be present, and I kind of explained this already. I wanted to just spend quality time with him and just get to know who this little boy was. So that was my intentions. I didn't really, I wouldn't say I didn't care about teaching him to read, but you know, that wasn't my priority at such a young age, but it just happened. So bonding and communication. So I have a video here of Dr. Ben Carson, and this was before he got into the political arena. And so the story behind this is that when I was 3 months pregnant, I had lunch with 2 coworkers, and one of my coworkers said, you know, you really should start reading to your baby now. And I was 3 months pregnant. I was like, 3 months pregnant, I should start reading to them now. And she encouraged me to watch this PBS special with Dr. Ben Carson talking about brain health. And you can look this up on YouTube. It's actually called Brain Health Talk. So if you go on YouTube, look up Brain Health Talk. It's an hour-long special, and he just talks about just the wonders of the brain, and he talks about the baby's brain. So after I watched this, I had a plan for how I would communicate with my son, how I would bond with him, and how I would expose him to words. So I'm going to play just a little bit of this, and I'm going to fast forward it a bit here. So we will start here.
It really is quite an amazing thing. Now, as you'll notice that when a baby is born, the head looks pretty big. You know, it's about a third of the baby is the head. And that's the thing, you know, when a woman is pregnant and you try and decide, is this baby going to come through the canal or do we have to do a C-section? They're not measuring the shoulders. They're not measuring the pelvis. They're measuring the head. That's the big thing. If you can get that through, the rest will follow. But that's because, you know, so much of the brain has already developed over just that short span of time since conception. It really, really is quite an amazing thing. But it continues to develop very rapidly. There are other portions of the body that are really quite well developed by the time a baby is born. You know, the liver, you know, the heart, kidneys, all these things are really functioning at a very mature level. The brain, however, is still proliferating madly at the time that that baby is born. And those dendrites are making lots of connections. The more that baby learns, the more connections are being made. And, you know, when that baby's born, you know, the senses are all there. The baby is actually able to see, is able to hear, to taste, to touch, to smell. All of that input is coming in to those brains. And based on what that baby experiences in those very first hours of life, different connections start being made. And one of the things that developmental scientists have discovered is that babies who are interacting a lot, who are talked to, who are sung to, who are coddled, they develop those processes much better, much faster than babies who are just sort of like left to themselves. You know, some of the
Okay, so from this, I gathered, I had a plan in order to communicate with my son and to expose him to words. So I was gonna, coddle him, talk to him, sing songs to him, and interact with him. And if you listen to this whole thing, you will learn that by the age of 3, a child's brain has developed 90% of its size. And also from the ages of 0 to 3, a child's language centers are exceptional. So once I found this out, when I watched this when I was 3 months pregnant, I was like, okay, I have to expose him to as much information in a playful, appropriate manner from the ages of 0 to 3. And of course, you'll do it afterwards, but I just knew that those ages were very pivotal. All right, so my first plan of action was just to familiarize my son with language as a baby. And like I said, I just wanted to expose him to words. And so the first way that I would do is singing. And I am not a great singer, but at night when your baby's first born, they want to eat and you have to feed them. And I was tired. I was a full-time working mom. So in order to soothe him and more for myself, I would just sing. I would sing the ABCs. I would sing numbers. I would create songs. I would sing nursery rhymes, happy birthday, any song that I could think of while I was rocking him and feeding him, I would sing. So that was great exposure to words for him. And so I would do it then, and I would do it if I was making breakfast, or if we were in the car somewhere, I would just sing. And like I said, I couldn't sing, but he seemed like he was interested. And again, it was just great exposure to words. I would also talk. So if you're with me and I'm holding your child, you'll see me that I will talk to your child. And I also talk to him. So if we were outside taking a walk, I would put him in my baby sack, and we would see a tree and would have green leaves, and I would say, oh, look at the green leaves. And I would touch it and I would point out the green leaves, or, oh, look at the red car. And we would, sit there and look at the red car, and I would describe the wheels, or even like this cup here. So this is a Chuck E. Cheese cup. I would use this. I would talk about, the big ears on the mouse, or look at his shirt and look at the letter C. So I would just describe all of this. And when you do this with babies, you'll see that they will pay attention, because it's like, oh, wow, this person is talking to me. And I did it with my son, and I've done it with other babies, whether we have a play date and my son's friends has siblings, and the mother wants me to hold their baby because they're doing something, I'll just talk to them, and you'll just see like a baby will stop and will listen to you and interact with you. The other thing is dancing, and this is just a great way for comprehension. So songs like head, shoulders, knees, and toes, they're doing head, shoulders, so they're learning where those baby parts are. And then another resource is Pandora Toddler Radio. They have a lot of great songs with the alphabet, colors, numbers. So sometimes I would just pick him up and dance to the songs with him and sing the songs with him. So as he's hearing me sing and we're dancing, again, that is exposing him to words as well. And then as far as, I just want to touch on this. So let's pretend that this little stuffed animal is the baby. Most parents, they pat their back, or they'll bounce them up and down, but this is a great way for you to expose them to language. So if I was holding my son, I'm patting his back, it's like pat, 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 and I might say circle, 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 pat, pat, pat. Or if bouncing them up and down, you say bounce, 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 or up, down. So what you're doing is you're bringing descriptive language while you are playing with them, and so they can understand what those terms mean. And then also there's a wonderful song called Run Baby Run. I think it's by Raffi, and it says run baby run. So I would get up and run, and then it says jump, baby, jump. So we would jump. So those are ways that he understood that, you know, these words that we're saying, they have meaning and we're using physical language. Now, if your baby can't walk yet, I would just pick up your child and do those motions with them, you know, maybe jump with them lightly, maybe run with them lightly. So that way they're being exposed to what those words means in the song. So sign language, so babies actually can communicate with you before they can actually talk. And my daycare provider, she exposed me to this. And so when my son was 3 months, I started to expose him to sign language. And a wonderful app, it's called Baby Sign Language Dictionary app. Again, that's Baby Sign Language Dictionary app. And what it does, it has a bunch of sign languages that you can teach your child. And I use that to teach my son just some basic signs. So this would be more, this would be all done, and this would be milk. So I started to expose my son when he was 3 months to this. And, you know, I would just expose him to it. Every time I would give him milk, I would say milk. Every time I would say, if I wanted to know if he wanted more, I would say more. And at 3 months, I didn't think he knew what I was saying. I was just exposing it to him. But one day he was on the bed crying, and I picked him up and he just wouldn't start crying. I was trying to comfort him, and I put him back on the bed, and all of a sudden I see this. His hand is by his leg doing this. I'm like, oh, he wants milk, he wants milk. So I immediately got milk, and I'm like, oh, okay, he understands. So it was just a natural way to expose him to it. I didn't think that he understood it 3 months, but at 4 months when he did that, I understood, okay, he does understand the sign language. And also reading. So I started reading to my son as soon as he was born. And that was just a part of our nighttime routine. So even when he couldn't sit up and he was laying in my arms, I would have a board book in one hand and him in my other arm, and we would just read. And later on this presentation, I'm going to show you a wonderful way to read to your child to keep them engaged, and also for them to keep giving you back the book. So they would want to keep reading with you. It's going to make the book come alive to them. All right, so here is what I understood. Okay, he's getting familiar with language. It was some of the books that I was reading. Here he is 10 months here, and I just wanted to test and see if I asked him to give me a book, if he would be able to give it to me. So that bin there, that colorful box there with all the crosses, it has about 12 books in it, and I asked him to give me a certain book, and I will show you what happened there.
Mommy wants the Thank You God book. Can you bring it to me, please? Where's the Thank You God book? Bring it to Mommy so she can read it to you. Give me the Thank You God book. Bring the Thank You God. Bring the Thank You God book with you. Is that the Thank You God book? Let me see. That's correct. That's the Thank You God. Good job.
Okay, so you can see there that he was able to give me the book. We had read that book over and over again. And you may notice that kids like to read the same books because it helps them to become familiar with language. And so if you do a test, maybe you read the same book to your child maybe a week or two, see if they will know, if they can get that book for you, or if you show them a different book, if they will say, okay, that's not the book that you asked me for. So if you could kind of test that if you read the same books, they will become familiar with the words in there, even as babies. So this is how I teach my son everything. It's called In-Depth Learning. So Dr. Ben Carson has a book called Think Big. And in Think Big, all of those letters stand for a certain word. The second I stands for In-Depth Learning. And it's basically just exposure to concept in different ways. And what I use as a guide for children would be the 5 senses. So if I'm teaching my son something, I not only want him to see it, I want him to hear it, I want him to touch it. If we could taste it, I want him to taste it, I want him to smell it. And it's just natural exposure. So we'll take the colors, for instance. So with the colors, my son learned the colors at 16 months. And one was through just seeing it. I would go to the library weekly, and I would at least get a book on the alphabet, the alphabet, colors, and numbers. I knew he had to know that once he was older. And each week I would just get a different book. So we probably read over 60 books about colors. So that's different authors' perspectives on colors, different characters telling him about the colors, different storylines telling him about the colors. So when you have all that exposure to colors, it's kind of inevitable that he would learn the colors. So he would see it in books. And then sometimes if we were eating a snack like an apple, I would say, oh, there's a red apple. If there's a red ball in the room, I would point out that the ball is red. He would hear it through books, and also there's on the Pandora toddler radio, there are songs about colors. And so sometimes if the color song came on, I would try to find different objects of those colors in the room so he can make that connection that, oh, what you're hearing in that song, you're seeing it here. We would also touch it. Like I said, I have colorful balls here, or, like this stuffed animal is blue. So I may make a point and say like this stuffed animal is blue. So I would make sure that he's touching the colors. Tasting is kind of hard to do that with learning, but with a lot of fruit, they're different colors. So that's a great way to expose them to that. And then smelling, that's kind of difficult, but if you could do it, that's great too. So I would just think about the 5 senses, just learning with the whole body, learning with the 5 senses. Any concept you want to teach your child, make sure at least that they're hearing it, seeing it, and also touching it, tasting it and smelling it. It's a bonus. So the next thing I did was I wanted to teach my son the alphabet. And again, you're going to see these words all over this presentation. I wanted to expose it to him in various ways. So, and I also wanted to expose him through natural exposure. So one way was through books. Again, like I said, I would go to the library once a week. I would always get an alphabet book. And again, we probably read over 60 children's books about the alphabet. So that's 60 different perspectives on the alphabet. All these characters talking about the alphabet, and he keeps seeing them A, B, C, D in order. So he just learned it that way, in a natural way. And then also play. So here on this picture here, these are actually curlers. They're flexi rods, and I just never used them. So when I would change his diaper, I would give him this just so he could have something to manipulate while I was changing his diaper. And then one day I just decided to shape it into an A and a B, and we would shape those letters. Then eventually he was able to do it. And it was also great for strengthening his hands to prepare him to write. But we would also do this with Legos. We'd build with Legos. We would make the alphabet with Play-Doh. And at one, you probably don't want them handling it themselves, but he was able to say the alphabet. So I would, roll up the Play-Doh and I would shape them into the alphabet. So again, he's seeing it, he's touching it, he's hearing the alphabet. I would say, oh, this is A, and we would build it together. So you could also play with the alphabet in that way. Music, and there are a lot of ABC songs out there on Pandora toddler radio, also YouTube shows where the alphabet, they're jumping, the A is jumping, the A is dancing. So a lot of kid YouTube shows are great for also exposing your child to the alphabet. And songs, you can create your own songs too. Digital media, and I kind of touched on this, but a great digital media resource would be Leapfrog, Letter Factory. They have more on the alphabet. And what I will say about the digital media is that the American Pediatric Association, they don't recommend that children watch television or be exposed to video before the age of 2, simply because they really don't know what's going on. But because my son knew the alphabet at such an early age, I exposed him to this at 16 months, so he could actually say the alphabet, and he was familiar with it. So I did let him watch Leapfrog, Letter Factory, and they also address phonics in that cartoon as well. We'll get into that in the next slide. And writing. So before he could write, I would have paper in the car, or I would have a doodle pad, and I would write. He would scribble on one side of the doodle pad, and on the other side of the doodle pad or paper, I would write letters. I'd write A or B, and he didn't have to come to my side, but a lot of times he would look and see, okay, oh, what is she writing? So he was seeing how I was forming the letters. And then also when I was reading books with him, I would outline like the A in the book with my finger, so he could see that, okay, this can be drawn too. You can form these letters as well. In this video here, he is about 19 months here, and we're doing window markers. So we're at the window, and at this time, he's able to say the alphabet, and he's saying A, and I'm writing A. He's saying B, I'm writing B. So this was a great way for me to show him, he's practicing his leadership skills. So whatever he says, I'm writing it. So I'll show you just a little bit of this, not all of it.
All right, ready? A, big A. B, C, D, E, F, G.
Okay, so you can see there that he is saying the alphabet, and then I'm writing it. And in one hand, he would also have a marker too, just scribbling on the window. But on the other side, I was writing the letters. And so that was one of those times where he was saying, oh, A. And so I erased my A, and I was like, well, can you say them? And so when he said them, that's when I would write them. So that's something that he just loved to do. And I think it just showed some leadership, because he was saying, oh, if I say it, she'll write it. You know, so he kind of had some authority there. So after he learned the alphabet, I did the phonics, and I actually taught him this simultaneously. And again, exposure to it in various ways, again, in books. So when we would read books about the alphabet, you know, I would say maybe it's A is for apple, but I would actually say A is for apple. And if it was B was for ball, B is for ball. So I would add those alphabet sounds in there while I was reading, so he can know that, okay, these letters have sounds to it. Also, digital media, again, you can use a lot of the videos on YouTube. Also, the Leapfrog Letter Factory. And actually, I'm going to show you this toy here. Here's a Leapfrog toy that my son still plays with today. And it's magnetic, so it can be put on your refrigerator, and it includes all the alphabet. So I'm just gonna, so what you can take these letters out, and the kids can manipulate them on the refrigerator.
E says E, and E says every letter makes a sound. E says E, and
So I like this because it tells them the short sound of E, which is A, and the long sound of E, which is E. And it's in a song form, and it's just something that they can manipulate either on the floor or on the refrigerator. Also toys, again, like I was saying, we would build the alphabet with toys, with Play-Doh. We would also build them with the big Duplo blocks with Legos. We would build the alphabet also with magnetic tiles. And while we were building, I would go over the phonics there. We just built an A, apple, or A, so I would go over the phonics there. And again, I'm just saying it, I'm just describing it, and it's just a natural way for him to do it. And then I would create songs too. So at night, when I was with him at night, feeding him, or even when he was sleeping a little bit longer, our routine was to sing and to read books. So one of the songs I would always sing would be A is for apple, B is for ball. And again, I can't sing, but I would sing that song. I would sing a number song. I would sing a song about colors. And so every night he's getting exposure to these songs. And when he's hearing it, he's internalizing, his brain is soaking it in. So you could create songs with that, with different characters. You know, M could be for milk, or N can be for nest. So, and then sight words. So I read this book about, teaching your child to read, and I knew that you had to teach them the alphabet. They need to know the phonics, but they also need to know sight words. So a lot of people argue, should you do both, or should you do one or the other? I think that children need both in order to learn how to read. So I did not use flashcards. I actually think using flashcards can be effective. I know a lot of us learn by using flashcards, but I actually think it's an isolated way to learn sight words. I think it should be more active learning. So like, let's say a sight word is is the or the, they should see how that word is used to actually form a complete thought, or how that word is used to convey what is going on in the story. So one of the things that we did was we did a lot of nursery rhymes. I would get books from the library on nursery rhymes. They have a lot of sight words in those. Also, you can also play sight words on the internet, like as far as YouTube, Mother Goose. They have a lot of sight words there, and you can put on the captions on your television so they can actually see the words that they're saying. So they're actually seeing the words, dancing to it, and seeing people being playful with various nursery rhymes. We would record the day with words. So if we were outside and we saw a lady or a woman that was walking her dog, and we did a lot of walking outside, and we did sidewalk chalk, I would say, oh, look, the lady is walking her dog. And if we were at the blacktop, I would write out that sentence, the lady is walking her dog. So is walking her dog. So he could actually see the word the or the word her. So he could see the lady walking her dog, and he can actually see it while I'm writing it as well. So he instantly made a connection with that. And also, I remember one day that he was getting taller. So with the magnetic letters on your refrigerator, I formed the letters to say the boy is getting big. And I was like, you're the boy, you're getting big. And he got excited. And so there's sight words in that sentence as well. So again, he could see how those sight words were used to make a complete thought, or for me to communicate to him. And again, books, I think books are the most effective way for kids to learn sight words. So again, I would go to the library, get books, we'd read a bunch of stories, and he would see those sight words within those books as well. And also through play. So one thing you could do, like I said, I don't like flashcards, but one of the things that I did, I knew that he liked remote control cars, or he liked his car. So one thing that you could do is you can make a list of sight words, maybe tape them on the floor, and you can have your child roll them to the sight words. Or I've also seen where parents have, but then once you do that, you want to make a sentence. So if they are shooting the word is, maybe make a sentence with the word is, so they can see how that word is used in a sentence. And I've also seen mothers that have put sight words on the wall, and if a child has like maybe a stick, or maybe like a little Nerf gun or something, the child has to tag the sight word. But then again, you want to make sure that you're using those sight words in sentences so they can see how it all connects to make a complete thought. And so here is a video of us using our magnetic letters here. And I just made a sentence, and I wanted to see if he could read it. And I'll play this for you.
Okay, let's try to read this sentence. Okay. All right, what's this word? What's this word?
Pig and dog are big.
Yes, the pig and dog are big.
And you can see that he was 1 year old doing that. And the reason why he could do it is because we read a lot of books, and just basically what I talked about before, we played with sight words, and we would record our day with sight words. And so this was a way that he's touching the sight words, he's seeing them, he's hearing them. And so it used that in in-depth learning, or learning sight words in various ways. Now, if I had to say something that set maybe my son apart, or me apart, maybe from others, it would be reading a variety of books. So I think this is the ultimate tip here. And what it is that, when we talk to our children, we say certain words, but, the language in books, it gives children more of a variety of words, because, they're hearing it through various authors, through various characters. And so I'll tell you, when he was a baby, I would take him to the Baby and Me programs. And the librarian after the program, she would have maybe 30 books out, and I would take maybe 1 or 2, and I would just kind of hang around, and all the other mothers maybe take 1 or 2. But then they would leave, and I would see all these books there. So I asked the librarian, what are you going to do with all those books? She said, oh, I'm going to put them back. And I'm like, what? I was like, oh, no, I'll take them. So I would put them in his stroller. And I was like, oh, this is just exposure to wonderful books. and wonderful authors, and all the, children's books, they have colors in them and they're appealing to children's eye. So I would take all those books, and it was easier for me because I didn't have to search for them. So, a lot of people, they go to the library and they might get 1 or 2 books. Our library, they let us check out up to 50, and I would have 50 out at a time. But what I would do is I would borrow 10 and I would take 10 back. And then the next week, I would borrow 10, but then I would take 10 back. So we always had the limit. Sometimes they would let me check out 52 because they knew me. But I would definitely have the limit out so I could expose him to words. And it was just different books that we can read every night. So I talked about the library with frequent trips. And I know with COVID-19 is hard, but I know with our library now, they're letting you put the books on hold. And so what I do is I go online, put the books on hold, and I pick them up from the library. And then our library also lets you take about 30-minute, I think you could register for 30 minutes to spend about 30 minutes in the library. I haven't done that yet. I've just been putting books on hold. So that's what we do now. And just read books that they're interested in. My son was interested in balls, animals. So I would put those type of books on hold. If we saw a turtle when we were at the pond, I would get books on turtles so he can make a connection and engage within the story. And also books that connect to their experience. My son is a boy. I would get a lot of books on boys, a lot of books with cars because he loves his toy cars, or like this was his favorite stuffed animal. So I would get books with elephants as main characters. And then also, when you get books, sometimes they lead to other interests. So one time we read a book about an elephant that was in space. And so it kind of touched on the planets. So I saw that he was interested in the book. So I got a children's book about the planets. And then we started reading those books. And then it talked about the astronaut. So I got a book on the astronaut. So it kind of built on his interest. Once I read one book about his first interest, which was elephant in space. And I started getting books on space. And then I started getting books on astronauts. So the more that you read, you broaden your child's interest. And here, so this lady, her name is Adrienne, and she is a speech therapist. And I suggest that you subscribe to her channel. It's called Learn with Adrienne. And although my son didn't have any issues with speech, this video taught me how to read to my son in an engaging manner. So I'm gonna play just a little bit of it, but I would encourage you to just go back and watch this video in its entirety. I think she has 2 books about how to sit and have your toddler read to you. And I also use these methods today now that my son is 5 when I'm reading to him. But I'll play this here, and I'm gonna start it.
Aw, baby. And then I'll take the child's hand and I'll go check, 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 check. Choo choo. Where's Choo Choo? Choo Choo. And for the bear, I always like to do bear, roar, bear, roar, and repeat that. And the kids sometimes will do that with their hands. They'll point, and even if they don't say it, they're still soaking that in. And for the duck, I do this motion, quack, 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 quack. Sometimes for the baby, I'll do baby, wah, wah. So you're incorporating some signs and gestures along with the word.
So you can see there, she's not just reading the book, and that's what a lot of parents do. They'll just try to get through the book, but she's actually engaging the child in the book. So you see when she saw a bear, she's saying row, row, or the train, she was saying chugga, chugga, choo, choo. Or, she made the sound for the duck. And sometimes, like if a book I read to my son, if it said to jump, I would just stop in the middle of the book and we would just jump. Or there's a book called Animal Alphabet or Alphabet. And for each letter, it stands for an animal. So the S stands for snake. So I would put the book down and say S is for snake, and we would crawl around like snakes. Or if A is for ape, we would act like we were apes. So, I would stop in the middle of the book and try to engage him within reading the book. And you could do this with babies. And if you read how that she's telling you to read here, you'll have your child keep giving you the book back because they feel like the characters are coming alive to them. They feel engaged in the story and they really feel a part of the story.
They're pairing together.
So I would definitely go back and look at this. And again, it's Learn with Adrienne. And so this is this is result 1. So this is my son when he was 25 months. He had just turned 2, and my sister-in-law and my brother, they were babysitting him while my husband and I went to a wedding, and he's reading a book to my brother.
Right. Good night, 8 arms. Good night, tall vine. Good night, 8 sides on the.
Okay, and I know we're pressed for time, so this is my last slide here. So this is when my son was, he was 3, and I saw that he was kind of blowing through some of the baby board books and some of the children's books. So I decided, well, let's see what he does with, I picked Charlotte's Web because I think it was on Amazon or Netflix. It had a movie there. I didn't expect him to watch the whole movie, but I thought like maybe if I showed him 10 minutes of it, once he read this book, I could identify the characters like Wilbur and Charlotte, and he would have some connection to the story. So this is him at 3 years old.
Wilbur is not a baby any longer. He's got to be sold. Call the Zuckermans, suggested Mr. Abel to Fern. Your Uncle Homer sometimes raises a pig, and Wilbur goes there to live. You can walk down the road and visit him as often as you like.
Okay, and so that's basically the end of my presentation. I hope that it was helpful. Now this is just some of the tips. I have a lot more that I could talk about for maybe 5 hours, but I'm going to give it over to Jeff, and we're going to go to my website, and I'm going to show you some of the resources that we have on our website. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Do I need to stop sharing? Okay, I see it. Okay. Okay, I see. All right, so Jeff, if you can go, okay, there, that's fine. So here he's at our Soy Resource Library free courses here. And if you look here, if you scroll down on this page, you can actually sign in to be on our newsletter. And here I will send every Thursday just various activities that I'm doing with my son. So like last week we made snow cones. The other week we did we did a volcano. But also if you go in there, I will also share just some reading resources there as well. But every Thursday you'll get an email with just fun activities you can do with your child. And if you hover over that, and if you go to free courses, Jeff, just over. So you'll see we have also a free course about teaching your child alphabet recognition, and it's an email course, and you'll get an email over the course of 15 days where I share over 100 interactive activities you could do to teach your child the alphabet. And then if you go below there, we have a mini course, it's a 3-day video course that I will send you about how to teach your toddler to read, but it's more of an introduction about how to read to your child and keep them engaged. And if you go down, there's also a free course about fast study tips for kids. So I'll show you a method of how your child can learn facts. Like if you give them a list of 10 words, I can show you how they can remember the 10 words forwards and backwards within 10 minutes using the location method and using the body method and also storytelling. And then also the workbook there, this is actually a paid resource, it's $7, but it is connected to the free alphabet course about teaching your child about the alphabet. So if you don't want to wait 15 days to get one email, you could pay $7 for a workbook and you'll get all the information there. So that's our free resources, and I'll go to the store there. And the store here is the first book is Teach Your Child About Money, and that book is available on Amazon. The second one it's an online course, and it just has 9 strategies for kids to learn it's just fast study tricks. So again, just teaching you about how your child can learn math in a fast way, how they can learn facts in a fast way, learning them in 10 minutes using your body, location, storytelling. So I go over that within that course. And then I also have a teach your toddler to read through play course. So it's kind of like what I did here. I showed you the videos, but I'm showing you everything we did, like all the videos that we watched, all the YouTube videos that we watched, some of the books that we read. And you'll see my son's journey from when he was 0 to 3, how he learned to read. And this one is just my book about teach your toddler to write. That's available on Amazon. And this one is Teach Your Toddler to Read. That's a book on Amazon. And this one here is just the workbook that I told you about, where you can get the workbook for $7, and your child will learn you'll learn how to teach your child the alphabet in a fun and natural way with over 100 activities. And then the last one here is just some favorite products that we like to use for learning. So I'm sorry this took so long, but I'm ready. Oh, and I'm sorry, let's go to the home page here. If you just, quickly, if you just go to the home page, every Thursday you will see just different activities that my son and I do. So I wanted to tell you about that. And then let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. One other thing with the free resources, with the soy. Yeah. You here on the last part there, if you hover over it, well, don't click on it, sorry. Yeah, if you go join our Facebook group, if you go to Simply Outrageous Youth, if you go there, you can join our Facebook group, and we share activities as well. And then also there, you'll see that my son has a YouTube channel, and every Tuesday we share just various hands-on activities that we do, like science projects, do-it-yourself toys. So those are free resources. Okay, so I'm done now.
Thank you, Andrea.
You're welcome.
Great info. We now have a few minutes for some questions. And we are recording this, so you don't have to worry about capturing the questions or Andrea's responses. I want to tell you, you can share questions in 2 ways, via the chat feature or the raise hand feature. The chat feature, that button's right in the center of your screen. The white window pops up and you can type your question to the group. Or you can use the raise hand feature again. That button's in the center, a white window pops up and it'll see the little raise hand button. If that doesn't work for you or you can't find it, literally just raise your actual hand so it's visible in your screen, and we'll call on you. We do have a couple questions that we've already gotten for Andrea, and so I'll start off with one of those while you're thinking of yours. The first question was, Andrea, what do you do differently with children who may have trouble forming all of the alphabet signs?
Okay, so I would use in-depth learning. So maybe, they may not connect with just hearing it. Maybe you need to build the alphabet, maybe with the magnetic tiles, or even, curlers, or build the alphabet with Legos and then go over it that way. So as you're building the letters with the Play-Doh, say this is A, or A, or maybe get a toy like this. They're hearing it, they're seeing it, it's singing to them. You could do some YouTube videos, fun YouTube videos with sound. So I would think about those 5 senses. Is my child hearing it? Are they seeing it? Are they touching it? And one of those ways will click with them. But if you're exposing it to them often, and in a natural way, they will eventually learn. So maybe just change up the style that you are exposing them to it.
Great. Thank you. I think Carlisle had her hand raised. If not, I do have another question. We wanted to know if you found that others follow a similar path if they follow your steps.
I've had some moms that they'll take advantage, like let's say with the alphabet, they did the alphabet free course with the email, and they're like, oh wow, I didn't know there were so many ways to expose my child to the alphabet. And so I hear a lot of parents that tell me, oh, we sung it, we saw it on YouTube, we played with the alphabet, we built them, and eventually they started to learn, or we watched the leapfrog video. So it's like they understand now that there's not one way to do it. You can sing it to them. So once they implement it, and just over time, they find that their kids are learning at an accelerated pace, if that makes sense.
does. Joy, I think your hand was raised for a question.
It was. I don't fully know how to ask this question, but so my son in particular, he understands alphabet sounds recognition, but getting to the next stage of actually reading, how, for the parent, how do you connect from alphabet sounds to actual reading? I understand sight words and the nursery rhymes, but how do you connect that to fully reading? Like, for example, sometimes like even with certain sounds having multiple, certain letters having multiple sounds and getting over like those humps, how do you properly like teach your child from the parent's perspective?
Okay.
And
Go
my
ahead.
child in particular, his personality type will not show you what he knows until he 100% knows it. So also getting your child to reveal to you how much he fully knows as well.
Okay. So with getting your child from the alphabet sounds to reading, I think it's exposure to lots of books. So I would see what your child is interested in. I don't know if, I think you said you had a son, but if he's into cars, you know, I would go to the library and get books about cars. If he's into animals, get books about animals. And then as you're reading, let's say the frog is green, you know, I would go over, like with the frog, you would go over the FR sounds for og, the frog is big. And you could do that for, you don't have to do it for every word, but you know, maybe you could do it for the word frog. Or let's see, like if you have like big, like is big, you can go over that like big. And also like with toys like this, with magnetic letters are very good. So if you're sitting down with him and let's say you're playing with the cars or something and the car is red, maybe form the letter red, like R-E-D, and show him or her how those sounds are put together to make that word like red. But I would say the best way for them to get them from the letter sounds to reading is actually reading lots and lots of books, and just make it part of your routine. Like I didn't read to him hours and hours a day. It was maybe 15 minutes right before he took a nap, and then 15 minutes right before he went to bed, and he was just used to that. And if your child doesn't like to sit and read, you can use something is called shaping, where you can read one page to them and see if they can sit for that. And if they can sit for one page, maybe the next day you do 2 pages, and the next day maybe you do 3 pages. So you're shaping them. You're not making them, forcing them to sit down, but you're kind of easing them into it, if that makes sense. So that's ultimately how my son learned to read. You know, I taught him the basics, and then all those books that we read, every time we went to the library, we got different books. He saw those words, a lot of the words over and over again. Eventually he learned how to read. So hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. We've got one final question. Do you have a favorite book or series that children can start with?
So my favorite book is Brown Bear, Brown Bear. And the reason why I like that is because it uses patterns. You know, it says brown, I don't know if I have it in this room here, but it's brown bear, what do you see? I see a purple dog looking at me. Brown bear, what do you see? I see a green bear looking at me. So with those type of books with patterns where they repeat themselves, the kids see the words over and over again. You're reading in you're repeating and you're reading in like a rhythm. And so if they see those words over and over again, they'll start to recognize those words. So I do like that one, because like my son used to hand me that book back a lot of times when he was a baby. There was one time my husband was reading that book to him, and he would hand the book back. I think he handed the book back to him at least 10 times. And not only would we read it, but we would act it out too. So we'd act out the frog. We would hop like a frog. We would bark like a dog while we were reading. So he was more engaged, and he was interested in what those words were saying, because he felt like he was a part of the book. So I would say Brown Bear is favorite book for children.
Well, thank you. And thank you all for coming. As you've noticed, Jeff's added Andrea's website to the chat if you want to copy that down, and you can always find her in Davidson Connect. I'm sure she's already her profile there. Other than that, we will thank you and wish you all a good night.
Thank you.